just real quick, before we move away from this, I really want to just highlight the Deepmind announcement from this morning, because I think it's actually quite relevant to the tracking of variants and what's been going on.
Okay.
So this morning, Deepmind, which published Alphafold, and we talked about this a few
Deepmind is owned by Google. It's their AI arm.
It's an AI arm owned by Google, and they basically took protein structure and tried to predict what a protein looks like physically as a function of the DNA or RNA that codes the amino acids that make up the protein. And so again, like when you have a string of amino acids, they combine and they fold into a way that's really hard to predict. And that's the shape of the molecule that we call the protein. And then it does something in the body. And historically, we've had very hard times understanding how genetic code translates into physical structure of protein, which would allow us to predict what that protein can then do in the body. So this morning, Deepmind incredibly published a database with the predicted structure of every protein in the human body and in 10 other species using this capability that they now have.
What does it mean in English?
And so, what this means is we now have a physical model of every protein that human DNA can make. And that model would allow us to basically now predict what that protein does, how it does it, and how certain drugs can bind to those proteins, and how certain drugs can affect those proteins, and how we can alter human health by making new molecules or adjusting the genetic code to change the shape of those proteins in specific and targeted ways. So it's an incredible data set that was just published. It's almost like, releasing the Rosetta Stone, in my opinion, in terms of we now have this ability to translate human genetic code into the physical form of the molecules that run our body and do things in our body. They did it for 10 other species, and they said that they're going to publish this proteome database and scale it for all other species of life that we have this sort of data set around, for which they expect will achieve over 100 million unique proteins in this database over the coming months, freely available and searchable. And let me just explain, and I know I'm on a monologue here, so I'll win the monologue stat on this one.
It's a good one.
But let me just explain why this is relevant. The Delta variant, what it is that, the SARS-CoV-2 RNA sequence is about 30,000 base pairs long. 10% of those, or about 3,000 base pairs, make up the spike protein, which is the protein at the tip of the COVID virus, the coronavirus that gets into the cells. And, for every 10 people that are infected with coronavirus, there's about one nucleoside mutation. One of those base pairs changes and the virus evolves. And we don't know how that change in that genetic code translates into a different structure of the protein. And so we suddenly discover empirically, and by looking around, suddenly all these people are getting more infected than were getting infected before. We look at the genetic code and we're like, oh, here's the changes that happened. But we could have, with this capability from Alphafold, predicted what changes make the spike protein do a better job binding to human ACE2 receptors on the cells and getting it to cells, and what other changes could be made in the whole genome of the SARS-CoV-2 virus that could cause this virus to be more transmissible, more deadly, all these sorts of factors, because we can now estimate the physical form of that protein by changing the base pair. And so this tool that was released today, I think, highlights that over the next decade, these sorts of things that are going on with viruses mutating and variants occurring that are affecting our population can be better estimated and tracked digitally. And it gives us the ability to start to prepare tools and defense mechanisms against them with new drugs and new variant models and new vaccines well ahead of the, oh my God, we just got hit with a nuclear bomb, let's clean up the mess kind of in the future. So it's an exciting day, an exciting moment.
Would they have been released this, David, if it hadn't been for COVID coming out? Do you think Deepmind just pivoted their entire group of, because they have about 1,000 people, I understand. And by the way, they pay something in the order of $600,000 or $700,000 a year on average. And there's many people there who are getting paid millions of dollars a year. So just think about the scale of what Google is spending on this.
You guys know
they probably shifted a large number of people to work on this.
You guys know that I have long, deep roots at Google. And yes. I will tell you that the value system of people there, the press and the public will think what they want. But I think that the value system of people there drove them to realize the importance of this work that they're doing with Alphafold. And it is important for humanity, and it is important for the health broadly of people. They could have kept it all inside and used it to build therapeutic drug companies and make money from that. And I think the importance of this discovery and this capability was realized and is published for that very reason. There's a lot of work that Deepmind does to optimize ad targeting and ad spending and all this stuff, and they make tens of billions of dollars of incremental revenue for Google per year based on those capabilities. And then there are these things that benefit all of us. And by putting this out publicly, it's a great good for humanity. And they're making it freely available and searchable. And so I don't think that COVID kind of instigated this, because they've been working on this for a very long time, since before COVID. And this is a very hard biological problem that is key to understanding biology and how biology works. It's been going on for decades. They've unlocked it with software, and they're making it freely available. And there will be hundreds of drug companies that will now start because of what's in that database that was published today.